Hi everybody. This is a first for me. This is a tag response to MaximumRD's tag. It's an open tag for what system did you want back in the day that you never ended up getting while it was still in its time. And honestly, there were several of them, but there weren't any that I really, really, really wanted so much as there are two that I really wanted. And one of them, as a lot of you probably could guess from my channel, was the Master System. That one was, it was kind of mysterious in that I only ever actually saw one in person one time, and I couldn't even tell you what games we played on it. It was at my mom's friend's house. Her kids had one, and I just thought it was so weird because I'd never heard of it before. There wasn't a lot of press on it here in the U.S., and I had a subscription to Nintendo Power, so they only talked about Nintendo stuff, and we were largely a Nintendo household. So I never really heard a whole lot about the Master System. So when I saw it, it was this mysterious thing. It was like a whole different, a whole different world of games that I'd never even conceived of. And that's why I wanted that. But I eventually actually did get one of those shortly after, or maybe a little while after its lifespan ended here, but it was still going strong in other countries. The one that I got actually ended up being defective. I've heard that it was a big defective batch of consoles that Sega produced that were ordered to be destroyed, and I guess a whole bunch of them got into the hands of some disreputable person, and they went around to different farm shows and flea markets and stuff around the country, selling them very cheaply, offering a full guarantee and disappearing the day after they sold all of these so that they didn't have to honor that guarantee. And what happened was you would start up the system, you'd start playing, and within a couple of minutes the video would cut out. And you would be able to hear the game, you were still playing it, but you couldn't see it. So that was very disappointing, and I never actually got one that functioned properly until, just a couple of years ago. But there was one other system that I really, really wanted, even more so than the Master System, but I could never get it. I knew that I would never have it, and I still don't have one. And that's the Neo Geo AES console, the home version of all the awesome arcade games that I loved. I wanted it primarily to play King of the Monsters 2. That was a mind-blowing game for me in the arcade. I just loved it. And I really wanted to play it at home, but, well, it never happened. We were, like I said, predominantly a Nintendo household. When I was born, my parents had an Odyssey 2. They got rid of that and bought a 2600 when I was young enough that I don't even remember having an Odyssey. We had the Atari for the longest time, even into after I got an NES, and eventually, sold that off at a flea market or something for a criminally low price. Especially considering there are some Atari games that we had that were worth many times more than we sold the entire bundle for at the time. But hey, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, I got an NES, and when the Super NES came out, that was what I wanted. I never paid a whole lot of attention to the Genesis, even though it was out first. A couple of my friends had one, wasn't all that interested. Got the Super Nintendo. TurboGrafx 16 came around, and I thought, what little I saw of it, it looked really cool, but I was never actually interested enough to really want the system, especially because I knew I couldn't get it. We didn't have a lot of money, so it was just out of the question. And the Neo Geo was just way out of our price range. I mean, that thing was massively expensive, and the games themselves were ridiculously pricey, and they still are. And that it shows how good the system is. I mean, I think they still, if not to this day, at least up through the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, we're coming out with new games for it every year. And, the games would be like $150 when they brought them out, which is understandable because they've had to be expensive to produce, and not that many people were going to buy them. So they had to offset the cost. It had to be an expensive thing. Um, Still love to pick one up, but I don't want it so much anymore as I wanted it back in the day, because most of the games that I wanted to play then are now available in more, more or less arcade perfect translations on other consoles that I already do have, and it would cost me significantly less. Hell, it would cost me less to buy a newer console that I don't have, say a PlayStation 3. I don't have a PS3 yet. I'm working on it, but I don't have one yet. It would be cheaper for me to buy one of those and a collection of fighters from SNK than it would be for me to buy a Neo Geo AES and all the carts of the original arcade games. One of these days I'll have it, just to have it. Just so that I can sit down and stroke it lovingly and say, oh, this is my Neo Geo. And I will cherish it and name it George. But until that day, I'll still just be a little kid who wants a Neo Geo and can't have one. Thanks for listening to this response. I know it's kind of a crappy way to do a response. Most people will do a video response, which is what's expected on YouTube, but I still don't have a camera that's suitable for recording something like that. Also, I would like to apologize for not uploading any videos in God knows how long, but nothing else to say, but I got lazy, and I had some technical setbacks. I lost a lot of work that I had done on episodes that I was actually almost ready to post when I built a new PC, and without even thinking about backing that stuff up, formatted the hard drive and installed a new copy of Windows. That was really disheartening, so that set me back quite a bit. But I do have footage for 3 videos captured. Well, two and 3/4 captured, I would say. Just gotta get off my ass, edit them together, slap the commentary over them. There will be new videos on the horizon very shortly. So thanks again for listening / watching if you actually looked at the screen. I'm sure it was very boring for you to look at the screen this whole time since nothing happened, but if you did, you're a trooper. Later.